Hi, how are you doing today? Today we're going to be talking about some deaf cultural issues. And like one of the reasons that I'm bringing this up is because, a lot of people in the deaf community, online, they might know about. There's been some recent like debates about if American Sign Language is the same as English, and there's also another set of debates that I've had in the past with people about the history and the cultural aspects tied into that, about how American Sign Language, um, formed, how it started, how it came to be. So I wanted to talk to clarify my perspective on both of those issues today. And I did want to, I wanted to lead with how I feel about the formation of ASL is different than some people. Some people consider what I'm about to say pretty um, controversial, while some would say it's just, common sense. So I don't know. It'll be up to you. I think that'll be about value alignment. But if you disagree with me personally, we're probably not going to get along just because of I. Well, like if you are a native person who, or a person of the global majority, if I'm speaking on like a black cultural issue or a native cultural issue who disagrees with me, then I am probably most likely like gonna want to learn. Um, you know, if it's about your culture and your history, like I'm not gonna tell you how to feel, I'm gonna learn. But if it's a hearing person or if it's a white deaf person trying to tell me that, um, that how American Sign Language formed has like nothing to do with colonialism, then we're probably not going to get along. So let's just go ahead and part ways, because fuck you. But that's just how I feel. And I'm just going to be really, really honest, like, about that now. So, you know, um, a lot of people, like I said, they don't like what I have to say, but the way I see it is, when you look at the sources that I have, the information here.
And I have the papers to prove it.
Hi, my name is Lexi, also known as and doing business as Deaf Child. In 2022, my company was listed as number 14 Best Louisiana Events Companies and Startups. I have been doing business as Deaf Child since 2013. I have my Bachelor of Science in Music Industry Studies and Business Administration, and deafness runs in my family genetically. Speech is not fully accessible to me. And I've got about 50 certifications in marketing and sales that you can find at noladeafchild.com. Anna, I think you'll see that a lot of what I say, makes sense with the history of it all. So, um, I do reference this Bridges for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing timeline a lot, and it's a different conversation about, reasons for not liking this source, or, maybe some of the information. But at the end of the day, um, a lot of their summary in here is right, and it's a good summary of deaf history to take a look at this little timeline. So, um, I really want to just focus on the formation of ASL. So, in 1816, Laurent Clerc, where's this going? Sorry, where'd you go? Okay, I was trying to make this open, but it keeps scrolling down instead. Okay, sorry. All right. So in 1816, this dude Laurent Clerc, he was a deaf man from France. He came to the U.S. with Gallaudet. So he was here to help set up this educational institute for the deaf in America. Well, this is where American Sign Language, ended up becoming formed at. So, or how American Sign Language become formed. Actually, may have been at a different school, but all right. So, um, no, that would be the 1817. That's right next. That's right below it. The Hartford Asylum, or is it, no, that's the same one. Um, and it was later known as the American School for the Deaf. It was established by Mason Cogswell, Gallaudet, and Laurent Clerc. That is where French Sign Language and Martha's Vineyard Sign Language and local sign languages around the area, so native sign languages, were formed to make American Sign Language. And I'm going to get back to that part later with some more sources. Okay. All right. So that's we're talking about the making of ASL here from this timeline. Now there's another in terms of it being recognized as a language, there's one more point that I wanted to show you here. Actually, there's a few more points. Okay, so notice in 1880, National Association of the Deaf was founded. At that time, they claimed to be the first human rights organization. Okay, keep that in mind. Um, After Bell wrote Memoir upon the Formation of a Deaf Variety of the Human Race, he after that in 1880 at the Milan Conference, or no, before that at 1880 at the Milan Conference, he got sign language banned altogether. Time is hard. Okay, that's why we have the sources. All right. And in 1894, they renamed that school to Gallaudet. That is interesting. I never paid attention to that part. Okay, in 1952 was when Martha's Vineyard Sign Language became considered like extinct. But there have been some types of efforts to revitalize it. So I don't know about the check-in of that. I don't know if it's still considered extinct, but I know it has been considered, extinct. So now the 1954, Andrew Foster was the first Black grad of, Gallaudet College. Then, and that will come into play with the deaf cultural issues later. Now, in 1960, Stocko, he published his findings about sign language. Okay, and it was a legit language. It didn't get much attention. It was republished later. Um, but this is how ASL came back into schools. Um, Now notice here where it talks about the deaf community and a native language. So inside of the, and I'm not saying this is right because I can see why with cultural erasure it can be wrong. What I'm saying is I don't know what words to use because I don't know because of how I've been raised. Um, but in medical and academic discussions about sign language, it's often referred to as either a native or indigenous language, um, but with lowercase n and I, not uppercase. But it's gotten me thinking to the cultural erasure regarding capital, like native and indigenous, and what words to best use. I've been trying to use like language one and language two, like first and second language is what I'm trying to switch over to. But because this is so new to me, I keep, that's like a work in progress. Um, so if y'all have any thoughts on that aspect too, definitely would love to talk about that. But um, so yeah, Stocko, he recognized ASL as a different and its own language. So that was my point. Okay. So we're gonna be done with this for now. Um, the next thing that I did want to go ahead and look at is a Native American Sign Language guide, and it comes from Universal Indian Sign Language by William. I think it's Tokens. And so we're gonna look at this and talk about it because I want to show you guys some of the similarities between American Sign Language and Native American Sign. So we get to my point when I show you why I'm saying that American Sign Language includes Native American Sign Language, okay? Because it's all based on colonialism, cultural erasure, cultural eradication, cultural assimilation. It all happened around the same time periods. So when Native, and here's my point, I'm gonna go ahead and like get it out here. When white people, came to America, though white people were seeing how the Native people were already signing, right? And there is proof that I'm about to show you about how white people would learn Native signs in order to communicate with them when they first came. So, I know that the Wampanoag people were on Martha's Vineyard Island. I know that white people were learning Native signs. I know that I can prove to you specific signs which were taken from Native Sign Language and turned into American Sign Language. Scottish people came here to America, to Martha's Vineyard Island, and they saw the native people signing. They were colonizing the island, and I believe they took signs from native people, formed it with their own syntax for what they knew about sign language, and claimed a new language. We'll look at some evidence for that, and then we'll look at how I can show you how that happened in American Sign Language. So, what was great about, native sign is it was considered universal. It's how they traded. Um, so the way that what's called gloss, which is when you translate the sign into English, or the way that they structure their signs, very similar to what we do now. I would have to do, and what I did not do is pull up a comparison because I believe that if we compared French Sign Language to native signs to American Sign Language, cross-reference it all, we could probably figure out which signs were native is what I think. So, but I'm going to show you some pictures. So they had a different way of signing than we do. Um, because we would be more labels while they're more an image with their words. So what we do with American Sign Language is there's not like a like signs are not words themselves. They are representations of an idea, like a picture, right? So with American Sign Language though, we will have a different word for night versus moon. But in native signs, there's not a different word for night and moon. So, because for native sign, it's more about creating a picture inside your mind, I feel, from what I read about it. Um, but when we look at some of the signs that they have, so how they sign after, that's where they do the three bounce forward to indicate the tense. I believe that's where we got it from. Um, like there's different signs that they have that we use. A cross is one. Um, so a cross, we use that exact sign. After we use a variation of it. Um, we use their sign for alone. So that's two signs we use, another sign we use a variation. Um, so for arise, we use a variation of that. For arrest, we use that. You can't tell me that that's not part of the cultural appropriation and the cultural genocide and eradication of Native people. Because, astride, that is our sign for riding a horse. Um, we use that sign for baby, but that's kind of universal. Um, this is universal. Like, you don't even have to know sign language to know this one's baby, you know? Um, so like I was saying, you have before here too. We do before differently. I think we get above and below from them, but I have blurry vision. Um, so you see, we get a lot of words from them. We get boat from them. I believe we get bow from them and bowl. I think brave we get from them. Bring. Cannot. Yeah, we got that from native sign language. It's just wild to me when you look at the differences because you can see like when you're looking at the pictures, there's a lot of differences, but so many of these, it's like you can't convince me that we didn't take it from American Sign Language because okay, like let me see here. Let's look at French. Like now, I kind of feel like I have to do it real quick. Like in regards to the formation of sign language. So let's do French Sign Language for cannot. Is it the same? I cannot find it. That's kind of funny. Why can't you just give me like the word for the fucking? Maybe I don't know what to Google. All right, I lied. I don't know enough about French Sign Language to know how to Google what is a French sign. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's not. Maybe it has to do with my search engine and the fact that I'm in the United States. Maybe it has to do with the fact that there is not that information published online at all, period. But maybe I don't know what that has to do with, but I couldn't find that information, but I'm very fascinated in it. If you know French Sign Language, please tell me how if you can spot like some of the differences or similarities between French Sign Language, American Sign Language, and what we're looking at for native sign language. Cause that would be the fucking shit. So I think we've gotten the point that I'm trying to make with this article, so we're gonna move forward now. So this and these show some of the same pictures that we were just looking at, so I'm not going to go through all of them. But I will point out, look at here, we totally get that from them. So you can't really convince me. I just told you about riding a horse. Look at that. So you know what I mean, like fire. Yes. So um, right. So that's so fascinating to me. So pigeon. Uh, I I was trying to say Plains Indian Sign Language, but when I'm thinking of sign language and PSL, I want to say Pigeon Sign English. So that was my bad. But Plains Indian Sign Language is considered endangered um, because of over time the use has declined, and that is because of what I was telling you. Native people when these schools were formed, what did they do with the native people that were there, right? They would force the deaf natives to go to these schools. And I believe that's how they were getting some of those signs from them because because the timeline says where was the sign language formed in the schools. What did white people do when they came here? Took native people, forced them into the schools. In these schools, native people were not allowed to use their hands, not allowed to use their language, um, because I know when sign language is banned for all deaf people, they would slam their hands shut in desk, tie their hands shut, and all of this. Well, I fully believe the same measures were used against native deaf people to prevent them from signing. Um, so I have no proof beyond the information I know available to me based on native history, deaf history, and colonialism. But also, I do feel like the sources we're looking at prove this. So, first of all, hand talk, um, because of oral histories and the archaeological evidence that can actually back up the oral histories, um, there is, I wonder if it's appropriate for me to watch this. I'm going to link.
My father, when he
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to try to remember to link this video into my descriptions for this video that we're on here. Because I kind of I want to watch it, but I don't want to, I try to get other people's information, or, I don't know if I don't feel like have enough, the right background and information to be the right type of person to do commentary on that video, but otherwise I would watch it here. So it's going to go in the description. Sorry. So they basically took French Sign Language. and they turned it into American Sign Language. But there's also the deeper history. There is the previous existence of Indigenous Sign Language, and the eradication of this is often overlooked. Um, and I believe also, like, there was no cultural division between deaf and hearing worlds within Native communities because they treated deaf community as equal. They already had the accessibility for them in place in everyday society. So, I've said it a lot. I believe hearing cultural divisions deeply tied to colonialism, and this is the root of it all. Um, so as I was telling you, the archaeological evidence, we've got the ancient rock writing, where they can find the evidence of it. Um, I believe this is a typo, but I always get entertained at the typos for dead. It's either a typo or an autocorrect, depending on the person's where the person typed it at. But so this is just backing up what I had been telling you, where deaf native kids were forced to go into the American Asylum for Deaf Mutes. Well, this we just discussed. Where was American Sign Language formed? Intrigue, and they did some rebranding. They did some name changes over the years, but we know who the fuck they are. You know what I mean? Um, and so yeah, fucking there has been concern, because of the history of this language being stripped away from native people. There is concern of it being lost. And I believe this article is basically saying um, that, yeah, it basically was saying that the students were forced to assimilate, because and that they were told that ASL was superior to whatever their native sign was. That's fucking hilarious because ASL steals words from your sign language. Like, what the hell? White people culturally appropriate your own culture. They steal your culture and then tell you the way they do it is better than. Oh my god. Well, I should say they was we because I'm white. Then I wasn't those white people, but then I'm still benefiting from them. I don't know. That one's a weird mind fuck because whenever with me, because I've been told on one, like, with I never want to offend anybody. So in my anti-racism journey here, some people, they get offended if they feel you're trying to distance yourself from whiteness because they feel then you're not taking accountability for your role in white supremacy and benefits of white privilege, which I totally get, totally respect, never, would want to disagree with. And then some people, they don't like it when you have like a white identity or white, like they, no, that sounded rude. Not rude, but weird. That's not what I don't know how to use the right words, but my point is, like, some people, um, like, if you do, they'll be like, oh, you're white supremacist if you identify with that. So if you don't identify with it, you're not taking accountability. If you do identify with it, you're a white supremacist. It can be. I'm not saying that, like, like, I accept all critiques. I'm just saying, like, um, I don't know the right way to approach these issues. You know what I mean? So I'm learning as we go, and it's like at one point, or do you just journal this shit instead of process it live in front of others, right? But at another level, it's like the reason why I'm sharing this, or is because I feel like on some level, yeah, we should just keep some shit private because it's not everybody's burden to deal with your shit fuck, and some things other people just don't fucking need to know. Maybe this is or isn't one of them because I'm on my learning journey. I don't know that yet. But what I am saying is I think because we don't talk about it enough, we don't talk about the thought process between learning, between going from A to B, where people just talk. It's it's like, how do you get from A to B? How do you change minds? How do you educate yourself? How do you process information yourself? On some level, I do think, I do enjoy when other people share that personally. And so I do think it needs to be shared when people are open to sharing, their thought process. Sorry for that ramble, or you're either sorry or you're welcome, depending on if you liked or didn't like that. Okay, that's not funny. I take this seriously. It means a lot to me if but I don't know. All right, let's keep moving. Fucking so I believe that the evolution of Native American sign languages, are definitely way older than most European sign languages. I believe, and I don't know if I pulled up a source on this beforehand, but I believe that sign language evolved before spoken language ever did. And so, to that regard, I believe it's innate inside all of us. Um, and so I'll have to go pull up a source on that if I didn't pull one up already. But yeah. Um, so this other article just kind of goes into some of the similar information that we've been discussing. Um, it talks about how they don't have as many signs that American Sign Language has for their linguistic syntax, but they still use those signs to create the same meanings, if that makes sense. So, more is less. Less is more. Less is more. That's what I meant. More or less. Okay. Um, where am I? And let's see. My roommate was playing video games, but then I think he stopped, so my house went from being kind of loud because I could hear the background noise to eerily silent for me. So, this is one of the sources that you could see for where I was saying where some experts believe that early humans used sign language long before spoken language evolved. Um, so native tribes, they were communicating using hand talk centuries before Europeans came to America. Um, and so this is part of, the cultural eradication that we have done. Um, but yeah, and it wasn't even specifically for the deaf culture because deaf people were just included by the evolution of it. My understanding of the history from the information available to me is, you know, every not every most many tribes have their own different languages, and some tribes will share language or they'll have similarities in their languages, but for the most part, each tribe will have their own language. Spoken language, and then with sign language, that is where they would be able to all communicate in the same language. Um, they call this as depopulation and Americanization. That's a fun way of wording genocide and cultural eradication. We're calling genocide depopulation now. Is that what they're gonna call what's happening in Palestine? Depopulation? Um, how the fuck do you just put depopulation? Yeah. You made me fucking kill them. You mean you're killing them? Murdering. Depopulation. The concept of that word just blows my mind because it's like saying non-consensual sex. You mean rape? Fuck, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Fucking yeah. All right. So here, this article shows that the European settlers were communicating with their sign languages. So, you know, and right here it talks about how the Canadian First Nations and the French use sign language with each other. The Native Americans in the United States use sign language with the British and Dutch settlers in New England too. The Spanish settlers, I said Spanish settlers picked up on sign language around the same time. Um, so yeah, you can see here there is evidence white people were using native signs. And so that is why I believe they were including it into the American Sign Language. Um, this is about spoken language, but I also 100% believe it applies to the sign language as well. So this is about language loss from a native student speaking Ojibwe. Um, and they stress the importance of enforcing the use of European colonial languages on them. And that was because they recognized the link between language and culture. And there was a ban on indigenous languages. So keep all of that in mind. That was all part of the assimilation. So this is my history on that. And I don't want to put this other person's trauma into my point on this. But I do believe their story proves what I'm saying about the formation of American Sign Language, the history no one talks about. So, what they were forcing in general, all Native people were forcing them into American schools and into boarding schools. What were they doing with deaf Native people? I believe they were sending the deaf Native people to the deaf American schools. Well, in America. Like I'm talking strictly American history. I have been referencing some other uh countries as relevant, but I only know in relation to American history. So they were trying to force the Native Americans to give up the languages and cultures of their ancestors. And they were separating them from their families. Keep that in mind. Okay. Um, this one, all the rest of these, I can just share the link and it's linked. This one I found Googling some information about all of this, and it's a PDF that I downloaded. And so I can't share like the actual link to the PDF, but I did put the information in the description for this video about how to find a PDF or how I found it. But we're looking here, we're not going to read the whole thing. It's called The 10 Stages of American Indian Genocide. And if anybody wants me to send this to you, you can comment below, like with your, if you want to, or you can contact me on my website with your information. and I can respond back with it, and that's noladeafchild.com. Um, NOLADEAFCHILD.com. Okay. So, yeah, fucking. So, the US federal government over the past 200 years used 6 different strategies to address quote unquote America's Indian problem. Using the Stanton's 10 stages of genocide, the authors explain American Indian Holocaust and genocide and their impact on the behavioral health and well-being of Native people in Indian country. The purpose of this manuscript is to expand and deepen the views of educators in such a way that influences and affects their professional practice with the American Indian populations they serve. Um, and oh, they got this in Espanol también. Me gusta. Uh, I don't know how to speak Spanish. Sorry, I said that. So, fucking speaking Spanish. I don't know how to speak Spanish. Mi español es mierda. Fucking. Alright, so the term genocide did not exist prior to World War II. And, because they wanted to describe in a single word not only the disintegration of the political and social institutions of culture, language, national feelings, religion, but also the economic existence of national groups and the destruction of the personal security, liberty, health, dignity, and even the lives of the individuals belonging to such groups. You know what's interesting is we've been discussing how um, America started the laws that Germany used to commit genocide against Jewish people. Um, and now we are seeing how Jewish people are created the term to describe what originated in America because it happened to them too because of the precedent. I think that's interesting. Um, How the fuck? Okay, apparently, whether or not Native people experience genocide is hotly contested, but that's like telling me that the Earth is flat. Okay, are you fucking kidding me? Unless you're a Native person who doesn't think I should be saying that, then you let me know. But like for real, what the fuck? Um, yeah. So here is the case for the American Indian genocide. A genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or part, of a national, ethical, racial, or religious group, such as killing. Did I say ethical? I meant ethnical. Killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group the conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, forcibly transferring children to another group. So, yeah. This has a lot of history. It's an amazing resource. Um, so yeah. Okay. So, with a brief history of American Sign Language. So putting the native signs into context of this. And so while I've been, discussing the controversy of everything is a lot of people are trying to tell me that native signs are not inside of American Sign Language. I wholeheartedly disagree with you. Um, so this post kind of cites, early sign in the United States. I feel it's very like they don't even mention native sign language. They just start right on in with what the white people did. They mention nothing of the people before. And I think that's interesting because that's how a lot of deaf people like to think of deaf culture and the formation of it as if it's this holistic idea, but we have to realize deaf sign language, a lot of it was, the formation of it was mostly influenced by hearing people, like none of the formation of it was a good story, but because it's the centerpiece of our culture and our access and our way of living, a lot of deaf people, they don't like to come to terms with the conflict of deaf history and deaf culture and native erasure. Um, so fucking sign languages are different across the world, based on the history of each place. In terms of modern day sign language, a lot of it, like within the Americas, if you, some of it, like, because there are different places, like American Sign Language is used in Canada, it's used in United States, it's used inside of like Puerto Rico, I believe, things like that. So, if you think about it like that, it's interesting because colonialism can impact where sign language is, like it's in Hawaii. And I know that I recently learned that Hawaii isn't even pronounced Hawaii. Like the W is supposed to be like a V, but I will butcher the trying to say the correct pronunciation right, so I'm going to say the wrong pronunciation right instead of saying the correct pronunciation wrong. Should I say the wrong pronunciation right or the correct pronunciation wrong? Fuck. Sorry. Um, that's not funny. I'm a little weird, but fucking, so yeah. And if you look at this article, it doesn't even mention native signs. So when you look at that, that's why I feel like this type of ideology put out there, like some people, they'll just only read something like this. They don't do any more research into what happened, and then they tell me like, oh, like no, 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 native sign language has nothing to do with it because I read, this type of thing which didn't talk about it. But I mean, that's isn't that not evidence of the cultural eradication and trying to hide it? Isn't is that more of like a whitewashed history and like speaks to colonialism and things like that, and the history of discrimination, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So okay, with the formation of ASL, um, Gaida had a crush on this bitch. I'm just kidding. He didn't have a crush on her, but he had a deaf student. He was trying to teach her some shit, and fucking so he went to Europe. He got some deaf like educators, and they were not deaf themselves. They just taught deaf people. Um, and he got all of them to come to America, and they made the college and everything that we know of. Okay, that's kind of some extra information this article is giving us here. Um, and then it puts us back up to status quo, recognizing that sign language is its own language. So this is another source agreeing with me about how sign language, existed as long as there was probably civilizations. Um, so here, I wonder if this is like part of them acknowledging native sign at all, or if this is just more of like the history of the formation of all humans signing. I don't know. But no, it looks like they're not really talking about native history here either. So, okay, but this does tell us with the idea of American Sign Language being its own language. As a result of Stocko's 1965 linguistic study of ASL, within a short time, the perception of ASL changed from that of like a broken or simplified version of English to that of a complex and thriving, natural language that was functional and powerful as like any of the oral languages of the world. And then it says the ASL in use today is a result of 195 years of deaf families and students passing down from one generation to the next the language. That it's become one of the most used languages in the United States. I didn't know that one. Okay. So here we're going to look at, so right now we've been looking at different histories of ASL to see if they even talk about the native influence, but also like our understanding of American Sign Language, how Native history has been hidden, and why it's a different language from English, how it became its own language, so the formation. Um, so, one of the reasons that there are a lot of debates about the formation of ASL is because the exact beginnings are not clear. Um, So right here it does say suggest that it arose more than 200 years ago from the intermixing of local sign languages and French sign language. Well, what were those local sign languages? The native signs. You know what I mean? Um, and this is on a .government website, so they're admitting it, but they're not gonna go ahead and say, "Yeah, we killed them bitches." So we killed them bitches and stole their fucking shit. They don't. They're not saying that. Instead, they're saying, intermixing of local signs. Yeah, okay, that's fun. Um, and then this shows, American Sign Language and French Sign Language. They're different languages. They have some of the same signs, but they can't be understood by each other. Because we mostly have like our word order. We don't really have like, we don't even have, I don't even know. Yeah, it's weird. So this talks about how ASL compares with spoken language. It's completely separate and different. So it's got rules for pronunciation, word formation, word order, and all of that. Um, and there's just different ways of, expressing ideas. We have a different grammar. So this right here does say 9 out of 10 kids born to parents who hear that are deaf. Deaf kids are 9 out of 10 deaf kids are born to parents that hear. All right. The 9 out of 10 deaf kids born to parents have that being born to parents that hear point actually wasn't really relevant to this discussion, but it's been relevant. If you've been watching any of my other lives, it's been relevant to all of my other Alexander Graham Bell discussions. So, um, now let's talk a little bit. So we talked about American Sign Language, the formation of ASL. Let's look at Martha's Vineyard Sign Language just a little bit, because this is kind of like a case study on how, on the cultural eradication. I believe it's the Wampanoag, Wampanoag, if I'm spelling that right. People who were on Martha's Vineyard's island originally. Um, so this one dude, Jonathan Lambert, came from England to Martha's Vineyard Sign Language. And he brought with him the regional signs from Kent. But here's the thing. If regional signs from Kent just evolved, I don't believe that white people are creative enough to make a whole new language. I'm sorry, I don't. I believe that they stole native signs, stole native culture, took signs that they liked, integrated it with the signs that they were using. Why? Because I know the history of white people culturally appropriating native history. I know how we've already discussed how genocide and cultural appropriation works and everything like that on this channel here. Um, so fucking yeah, I believe I can fly. I believe R. Kelly should die. Anywho, so fucking is he dead? Oh fucking sorry. Um fucking I don't know why I'm like this. Um yeah, I just think that is interesting. Because how do you come here with a new language and all of a sudden it just evolved into something else? I get that over time languages evolve. Over time we add new words. But I'm sorry, as an English speaker in my lifetime, I have not made a new fucking language. I don't think I can create an entirely new fucking language in my lifetime. Um, the only, like, I don't know. I just, this is my theory. Um, so, you know, just putting it all out there based on what we know, based on history. And I was just thinking, you're gonna hate me or love me for saying all this. And then I got the little song in my head where it's like, love me, say that you love me, hold me, hold me. I don't know the lyrics to that song, but, you know, fucking. Oh, just a video? Okay. So, what I do think is interesting, genetic deafness came in because of those Kentish deaf families from England. So it was just a group of deaf people kept having kids. But right here is, earlier I was bringing up that point where it had referred to sign language as a native language, and here it's referring to Martha's Vineyard sign language as an indigenous language. So in the past, over the past few years, I have previously referred to languages and in sign languages as and or I like native or indigenous sign languages without knowing better based on how I've been educated. But now I've been learning that that could be potentially contributing and related and connected to indigenous erasure. And so in order to make sure that I am not, you know, taking part in all of that, I'm trying to work on for myself, um, using different terms or I don't know, fucking figuring that shit out, something. Like, but yeah. So then the way that Martha's Vineyard Sign Language got eradicated, that what's funny though, because they culturally assimilated into in with the native science is what I believe. And then after all of that, not too long after, and that time period is so short. Hold on, when was this? Like 1730? Where are you at? Oh, late 1600s. Okay, in the late 16. Oh, I guess that's 100 years. Sorry. Okay, here we are. Yeah, I just think that's interesting. All right, so it died off because they ended up going into the school in Connecticut in Hartford. Um, and everything was assimilated within American Sign Language at that point. So, isn't it crazy how our school system just kills culture, and it always has? Anywho, uh, so there's this article called "Preserving the Indigenous and African American Heritage of Martha's Vineyard." Um, the island was originally inhabited by the Wampanoag people. I believe I'm saying that right, but if I'm not, not only am I so sorry, someone please correct me. Um, because identity super important. So before the extensive, finally an article that talks about this right. I promise. I'm over here like, I'm not crazy. I'm just a little unwell. I know right now you can't tell. Fucking. So these bitches were getting caught. That's rude. You're not bitches. You're amazing. These incredible, beautiful people were getting colonized by some fucking bitches. That's better. That's better. I call everybody bitches. That's my bad. Fucking. No one knows who the hell Martha is. Oh shit. Fucking. There is evidence that enslaved Africans were sold and probated on Martha's Vineyard. Um, and yeah, over time it did become known as, uh, popular among the black middle class and upper middle class. But then lately they've been experiencing massive gentrification and displacement of those residents. Um, and so yeah, and then bringing that back in. So the reason I am bringing up particularly Black and Native issues within this greater context and discussion, and within a lot of these other videos that I've been doing, particularly related to deaf history, deaf culture, is because there are two very specific and extreme and elongated periods of oppression against Black and Native deaf people by all white people, by all hearing people, and by even deaf people. And so I think it's part of, you know, learning and me figuring out how to acknowledge that, but also this video is because I have been having these debates with people, and if so, it is also to let people, know where I'm getting this information from, because it's kind of wild to me that I'm trying to convince people that colonialism and sign language are connected to me, but everybody's on a different journey. And I'm not laughing at people for not knowing any better. I'm just laughing at the people who are in denial, because that's what I have a problem with. There's a huge difference between ignorance and denial. Or, you know what I mean? I don't know. So, within this context, I just wanted to put it out there, there are these cultural differences, and there is within the formation of ASL because of segregation. There is Black ASL, and it's its own language, and it's extremely inappropriate for white people to learn that language or anything like that. So I do happen to know one word in it um because of learning, but like, yeah, so I just think it's important to acknowledge the history. So I'm also like, when I'm discussing all of this history, and I think I've said this before, like, I don't know what is the balance between me overstepping with the representation issue here versus acknowledging it within the scope of the issues that I'm facing, because I don't want to whitewash history, but I don't want to misrepresent other people's issues, um, or anything like that either, or be trying to represent other people's talk, speak for, talk over. I don't know. You know what I mean? I think you know what I mean. But so, you know, there's just these extra layers of oppression. And I definitely believe, if you are Arab, or if you're Asian, or if you're any person of the global majority, you are definitely facing an extra layer of racism, and perhaps, depending on your background, even a xenophobia and language deprivation, extra tiers between the different languages if you come from different backgrounds in the United States, Um, but the reason I have harped on the Native issue and the Black issue, um, wait, did that come out right? The reason I wanted to, as I had said before, was because these two key cultural moments within the division and formation of sign languages in America, I just felt I didn't want to ignore the history, and I wanted to call out what I perceive has been incorrect narrative. So I'm still learning the correct way to, address all of this, but it's definitely a learning process. But yeah, definitely reach out to me if you want to make content with me, or there's something I should be saying or doing better in regards to speaking on these issues. If you're someone who is really trying to give me advice, and or like make, or like who really cares about discrimination, just trying to make sure I'm not fucking discriminating, you know but if you're just like some white deaf person who is mad that I'm speaking shit about deaf culture, and you're denying the harm that deaf culture has to involved in its history, then you can suck my dick and fuck right off. But and if you're hearing, you can suck my dick too. Just kidding. Fucking So yeah. I wanted to put all of that out there because I do think it's really interesting how these social issues keep repeating in circles within the histories of each other, where the same things keep happening to these different communities. And at the end of the day, it's kind of the same people doing it all. So, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there are some parallels there, but So that was my point where within the formation of ASL, within the erasure of this history, for example, I got into a fight with a white deaf woman because she had reposted Charmaine's video and she took all this down and I didn't even get screenshots or I would have probably fucking made a video bitching about her. But um fucking because it all happened so quick. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'll be getting screenshots when I'm thinking about it, but sometimes it's like I'm so angry text messaging I can't even get a screen. I don't even get a screenshot because I'm so fucking mad. I'm like reading everything I said, and then by the time I go to screenshot, it's gone, and I'm like, fuck. But yeah, this woman was basically made a post basically mad. She was white, she's deaf, and she was mad that black people didn't want to teach her black ASL. Um, so that's like a issue in the deaf community, you know, and it's like, bro, did you know do you know the history and you're still saying this, or do you not know the history um and that's why you don't know any better? Like, because I would get if you really didn't know the fucking history and you thought maybe you were somehow no, she was basically mad. Like to me, it's like you should know enough about racism. It's to me not even not knowing about the history of Black ASL doesn't excuse it. The history of racism should be enough, you know. Um, like this woman was in her 40s. She's old enough, you know. But okay, so my point being, because of the cultural eradication on top of the cultural eradication on top of the cultural eradication, American Sign Language isn't just American Sign Language. There's a deeper and more nuanced history than that. There's Black American Sign Language, there's American Sign Language, there's Native American Signs, you know. All of that is connected, in my opinion. Um, And so when we're talking about the formation of American Sign Language being different than English, is its own language? Yes, each of these concepts are entirely different modalities because even though there's similarities, if someone were signing plain Indian Sign Language in front of me, I would catch bits and pieces of what they're saying because of how much is similar to ASL, but I wouldn't be able to fully communicate with them because I wouldn't no, we wouldn't, you know what I mean? It's a different language. And it's like with Black American Sign Language, completely different. Um, completely different language. Oh, you have to log in for this shit? That's lame. Um, alright. Well, you apparently there is a republication of Stacko's shit that we were talking about earlier, but I can't fucking read that, so oh. Fucking then just to prove like a lot of people um and if you're with me this far, you know, maybe I should have put this at the beginning. But a lot of hearing people, they don't understand that deafness is a culture. Um, so one evidence that I have to prove that is right here, where it shows, you know, members of the deaf ASL community, we define ourselves as a cultural and linguistic minority group. Um, I say so much. I used to talk so much shit on my teachers for it. Why won't you go away, you stupid ass ad? Whatever, fuck you. Um, bro, fuck these pop-ups. Go away. I tried. Okay, so I'm not gonna stay on this fucking page long then because this is really annoying me. Um, so this is studying deaf culture and ethnographic work in an introduction to ethnographic work in deaf communities. Um, so this is just basically like information on, letting you know, like, we are more of the academic research behind how deaf people are our own ethnic group, our own ethnography, how we have our own culture, our own values, our own way of living, and our own identity, our own sense of cultural and behavioral norms. Um, so yeah, I'll link this information, but that pop-up ad is annoying me. So, and then I really wanted to look at the part of this abstract for development of deaf identity and ethnographic study. And I read this. If you watched my video about Murney Ann 83, I read this in there, but that's because this is such an important quote to me that I feel that it's important to read it again. So we're gonna do that. Um, but it says the findings suggest that deaf identity is not a static concept, but a complex, ongoing quest for belonging, a quest that is bound up with the acceptance of being deaf while finding one's voice in a hearing dominant society through the use of dialogue and narrative tools. The study challenges educators. Oh, wait, sorry, that was it. Okay, where's my caption not working? Okay, let me read that again. I fucked that moment up. Let's try it. It says the findings suggest that deaf identity is not a static concept, but a complex, ongoing quest for belonging, a quest that is bound up with the acceptance of being deaf while finding one's voice in a hearing dominant society. So I wanted y'all to think of that, because deaf identity is complex. It's not simple. It's not easy. But as we've already discussed, deaf identity and deaf culture are deeply tied to our language, which is American Sign Language. And that's why deaf community takes these cultural issues so hard. And a lot of deaf community drama, the truth behind a lot of deaf community drama and the deaf cultural issues is because it is an identity crisis for the deaf community. And so every time, you come at us about our deafness, it's like you're attacking our identity and our sense of being and who we are, our way of living in the world, and our access in society. Um, and a lot of that has to do with the conflict. When it comes to understanding deaf culture, the biggest thing with understanding and resolving that conflict is knowing the academic and medical perspective and the pathological model of deafness is all rooted in the ableism and autism from the history of Alexander Graham Bell, colonialism, and cultural assimilation. Um, and I said Alexander Graham Bell before. The captioner is wrong, but um, so yeah, like all of it. So there's been this idea that we need to be fixed, that we need a cure, that there's something wrong with us, but there's not. So the whole concept of deaf culture, deaf gain, deaf awareness is access in society, and the systems and structures and cultural nuances in place that allow our community to thrive, and that our community identifies together under, you know? Um, and so I think a lot of this information is super important in terms of the understanding of who we are as deaf people, where we come from, where we doing, what is our role in American society, and how did we get to where we are today as a people, as a community, and as a society, you know? Um, and it's like when you talk about why has this history been hidden in the mainstream for deaf history and deaf culture? Well, first of all, what is mostly represented in deaf issues is extremely whitewashed because of racism. It has been easier for white deaf to get resources over time than people of the global majority. Um, and beyond that, with deaf issues, most deaf content is put out there by hearing people. So not only are deaf people struggling to get represented in general, like full stop, for over like regarding deafness in the hearing world, then because white people and racism have all more resources with those extra layers of oppression, and because of income disparity, like deaf people are twice as unemployed as hearing. And I think it's a similar statistic when it comes to black people are twice as unemployed as white people. Um, so that would make a black deaf person 4 times um, as impacted by income disparity, statistically speaking, as a white hearing person. For example, in those regards, so when it comes to things like that with resources and ability to move up in the world, is that a colonial way of speaking? I don't know. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense or is the right way of wording things. But if so definitely tell me if there's a better way I can be wording things. But if you know where I'm going or what I'm trying to say, read my mind, please. Um, fucking, what I'm trying to say is it's harder, So it's easier for me as a white deaf person than it is for other people. Is what I'm saying. So yeah, but life is hard, and we're all doing our best. Most of us, unless you're not, then fuck you. But if you are, you're doing your best. I got anger issues. I'm working on it. But yeah, fucking, I appreciate you being here. I feel like I'm teetering out. This engine is sputtering out, so we're gonna wrap this baby up. Um, Thank you so much for joining me today. I might do a different live on the linguistic analysis of ASL, um, because this was more of like a cultural and ethnographic analysis of why are why is this information hidden from the mainstream. And so just to wrap that up, this information is hidden from the mainstream because it's already a struggle to get deaf history taught. They're already hiding that. And you already know critical race theory is being banned everywhere. So put that together, you're not getting told shit about any of this. So it doesn't surprise me when people don't know any of these bits of pieces of information. Um, yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a great day. Thanks for watching. You might want to adjust the volume after all of this because a loud music is going to play. So yeah, adjust the volume. And then if you're coming to these lives anyway, I do have a loyalty program, noladeafchild.com/loyalty. If you sign up for my site as a member and you follow the check-in procedure, you can get points just for showing up to these lives anyway. So I just want to let you know about that. Yeah, I always have a really hard time saying goodbye because saying goodbye really just kind of feels like you're Tom Hanks. You know what I mean? Over here, just like, well done, Wilson. But anywho, yeah. So thank you for being here and goodbye.